Hey everybody, it's me, Mark Wiggins. Welcome to Off the Bench Spotlight. I am your host, Mark Wiggins. And as you know, I like to bring on people who are of interest to me to talk about stuff I want to hear about. And hopefully we will share some insight with you. Today, I am quite fortunate to have on Dr. Edwan O'Neill from Huntsville, Alabama. Dr. O'Neill, what's up, good brother? How are you? How are you?
Doing great. Thank you for having me.
Edwan, listen, I don't do bios. If you've been following along, I don't like them. I like people to tell them, you tell the people what you want to know about them. So tell the people who you are and what you'd like us to know about you.
Edwan O'Neill, originally from a small town, Chatham, Alabama. Grew up there, left high school, graduated from Washington County High School, went on to University of West Alabama, completed my bachelor's, master's there. In 2020, my wife and I both completed our doctorate degrees in higher education. And so currently for the past, actually 15 years now, we've been stationed here in Huntsville since 2007 and loving it. It's one of the best places to live in the United States currently. And so my wife and I have one son, Carson O'Neill. And so a little bit of background, I've worked in higher education for about 14 years. Started off at a community college, Alabama Southern. Then I went on to Stillman College as assistant director of admissions there. Moved on to Alabama A&M University as director of student life and leadership development. And then I transitioned from there to a nonprofit organization called the North Alabama Center for Educational Excellence as a director for Outbound. And currently I am the program director in FSO for a technology management training group who I work for Dr. Dorothy Houston, who's the founder of the company since 2004. We're a government contractor. This is the best job I've ever had. I love what I do, and I love the people that I work with.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Now, it seems to me, if I remember correctly, you were a member of one of the greatest organizations ever known to mankind. Would you care to share your details, please?
Yes, Spring 2K1, Deuce Club, Iota Theta chapter of the illustrious Kappa Alpha Psi fraternity.
I don't think they heard you, bro. I don't think they heard you.
It's new or nothing around here. So
I love it. I love it. Man, Edwan, we met many moons ago under the guise of a program put together by our good friend, Dr. Sharon Myers, where she created the My Now program. And we were going around teaching and training people on how to deliver messages, start their journey to success. Moving forward and all that kind of good stuff. You came on board to help with marketing PR at that point in time, and we of course became quick friends. I don't know about you, but during that time, it was like some of the dopest times ever. We were all over the country talking on college campuses, training kids get ready for school, because we had come from that background of Monster, making it count, where we had some exposure to the potential of encouraging young students to get ready early, probably some of the stuff we missed, right? And now going to help those on. What during that time, what was it like for you? Because you were doing marketing and PR, but you were early education. I don't think you had your doctorate yet. But what were you doing during that time?
When I first came on with you guys, which was an absolute great opportunity to meet you and Sharon and the other team members, Stephanie, Damon, I mean, just a great group of people. I was currently just started at Alabama A&M. I think that was back in 2008-9 in that time frame. And so I was working with student life, and that was various organizations. There was Greek Life, there was Miss Alabama A&M and the Royal Court, that was Judicial Affairs. So it was several different areas under my umbrella there. And in the meantime, I was doing a lot of speaking too. I was doing some training and consulting for other community colleges for TRIO programs. I was speaking at different schools and also doing some training for early staff members at smaller colleges in the areas of student government. I was doing some training with the American Student Government Association and also serving on some committees for NSPA, which is the National Student Affairs Association. So kind of involved with a lot of different things in regards to students, and I was enjoying it. And so being a part of the My Now movement with you guys was just a blessing for me.
Yeah, you became highly exposed and trained and stuff like that, and we had a great time with that. And you mentioned the TRIO program. Tell the viewers, people who aren't familiar with TRIO, what it is and what's its significance.
TRIO, it says TRIO, but there are federal funded programs for low income and first generation students. And so particularly I've worked with educational talent search, I've worked with Outward Bound, and I've worked with Outward Bound Math and Science. And so basically, a lot of our goals is to ensure that our students graduate from high school and then also enroll into college. And so those are federal dollars that are given to an organization, or typically they're on college campuses. But the one that I worked for initially was Alabama Southern Community College, which they had 4 programs. And then I moved on. When I went to NACE, I was the director for Outward Bound. And so we had about 75 students in Title I schools. Those are low performance schools that we went in and we implemented tutoring programs, ACT prep. At one time, they had the high school graduation exam we prepared them for. And then we take them on college tours, college visits, and we put them into community organizations to help develop the whole person. And so, ironically, my first year at NACE, that the average ACT score was 14 for our students.
14?
14. And so in a 3-year time span with our team, we really partner with the schools, partner with the principals and our teachers there to really implement a tutorial program and ACT prep program for them. And so in 5 years, we moved from an average of 14 to an average of 21. And so each year we'll keep 75, and then the graduating class, we will recruit new members to replace the graduating class. But our average went from 14 to 21 in a 5-year span, which we were very, very proud of. And we had a 99% high school graduation rate. I think only one student didn't graduate in the time frame that I was there for 6 years. And so TRIO program works. That's their motto, TRIO works. And we need TRIO programs across the nation right now.
That's just amazing. So you've been in education this whole time. What's drawn you to education, and why are you staying there?
Well, I'll be honest with you. When I was actually my last year of college, the dean of students and also the athletic director at my junior college where I played basketball called me when I was the first year of my master's degree, and she said, "Hey, Edwan, I want you to come work for me." And I said, "Really?" So I was finishing up my master's. I had I think another semester left, and so she took me out to dinner with the team. I knew most of those people because I had worked with them as I was a student at the community college. And they took me out to dinner. They sold me on the program of TRIO, which was Education Talent Search. And at that time, I called my mom. She was my agent. I negotiated everything with mom first before I made any type of decision. So mom said, "I think it'd be a great opportunity if she's just going to give you a job." It really wasn't an interview. I mean, they took me out to dinner and said, "Hey, we want you." And so I started my career off there. Then I fell in love with it once I started working with those type of students in the educational sector. And then I also was teaching orientation and leadership as a young professional as well at 23 years old. And so I just said, man, I really enjoy this. I really enjoy helping young people to get some opportunities that I didn't have. As you mentioned earlier, no one came to my school and talked about ACT and talked about scholarships and talked about going to college. You kind of had to feel your own way. And so when I began to find out and have these resources to provide to students, I just kind of fell in love with it, and I stuck in education for a while until recently.
Yeah. Now you're mentioning your mom. Now you had an interesting story background, if I'm not mistaken, about how you got to where you are, doctor. So roll us back a little bit and talk about you coming up and the things you had to endure to get to where you are.
Wow. Just to be perfectly transparent, man, my mom had me at the age of 14, single parent, born and raised in the projects. We was on welfare. My mom and my grandmother did all they could for me to raise me the right way. And I thank God for my journey. They were 2 strong Black women who I tell everyone didn't play the radio. And so I have no room for error. And my mom was very, very firm and stern. She was a 5-foot lady, 5'2", but she was, she didn't play. Just put it like that. And so with her working 2 and 3 jobs, just to try to provide for me was my motivation in life. And so I just knew I had to get a scholarship to get out. And so I tell my son now, you don't work hard enough for me. And I guess you have a different type of motivation, because when you don't have, you want to do better for yourself, you want to do better for your family. And that was my motivation to earn a scholarship to play ball and to be able to go to college and not have my mom to pay for it. And we talked about this a couple of months ago. I said, Mom, you know, you've raised 3 children. We're all doing very well. Myself went to college, played basketball. She on full scholarships, and she didn't have to pay anything. My brother ended up playing football, Southern Miss, 5 years. She had to pay anything, and so I just told her, just thank you for the way you raised us and the things that you've done for us and the sacrifice that you made, because now we look back on it and I wouldn't change it for the world. But very humble beginnings. And that has been my motivation to just help people, Mark, and give back to the community, man. I think that's my life's work, is to try to help young people, but especially young men, particularly our African-American males. And that's what I did my doctoral research on as well, because we're losing them so rapidly right now. And I think a lot of it is just they need some guidance, they need some nurturing, they need some love, and they need somebody in their corner. And I learned a lot of that by working in trio programs. A lot of them just need a little bit of structure and a little bit of love, and they will walk the right path and try to do the right thing. And so that's where my passion comes from humble beginnings in a small town called Chatham, Alabama.
Yeah, that's phenomenal. I heard you speak about not having your mom struggle to pay for your college, and that's, we talked about this before. That's kind of my thing. People are like, well, how'd you go to UH? How'd you get there? Well, the journey was interesting. And well, why'd you go to the white school and then go to A&M? And my answer was always and will remain, they didn't offer me any money.
Yep.
No, nothing personal. They didn't know who I was, and the right people knew of me. And my only goal wasn't get to. I told this to the guys in Nashville. My goal wasn't to get to the league.
Yeah.
My goal was not to have my parents pay for college, and
right.
that meant either sports, academics. Okay, we'll take that off the table, or the military. Those are my two options. You know what I'm saying? The option of staying home was not available. The option to fail was not available. It was to get here and get there. And I wanted that, you know what I'm saying? So it's interesting what we'll do when, I mentioned this as well. We often talk about, I'm doing this for my family. I'm doing this for whatever. And I asked these young men the question of the day. I said, well, what are you doing for yourself? Right? If you take care of and have it, if you want it for you, you may work a little harder. Now, their motivation, I'm not saying you forget what you started for. Their motivation, but they can't do the work for you. They can only open the door for you. You have to walk through. And as you know, whatever you did to get there is not going to be enough to keep you there. And that's where I go when I talk to athletes. I'm like, yo, that's all nice and things, but they ain't here sweating. They ain't here icing ankles. You know, that's for you to do. So you better make sure that what you're passionate about, what you're driving for, is going to sustain you, because that's what's going to push. And I know you walk that, and you're sustaining your push will definitely get the education and make sure now other young children, like males, get that exposure, because you know what will happen to us if we don't have an opportunity that's presented. So
absolutely.
Yeah. So that's noble. I love it. I love the fact that you are in that space, and we need young brothers like you in that space, talking the message, because you live the life and stuff and push them forward to see what do you really know what it takes to become a PhD doctor, a Dr. O'Neill? That, you talk about your dissertation and what you went through. Tell us more about what your thesis was.
So my dissertation was on the impact of retention and graduation rates for African American males in higher education. And so I did a qualitative study with focus groups. And initially, I wanted to look at a private and public PWI, and then a private and public HBCU. And so we did the IRB approvals, got all that done. And then I said, whoo. So my committee chair said, Edwan, you know what? We may have bit off too much to chew. So let's go back into 2 institutions instead of 4, because initially I wanted to do 4. I wanted to save the world, find out all that. and so it became year and 2 years. I'm like, oh. So we revised our perspectives. We changed the information to 2. So I did a PWI public, and I did a HBCU public institution. 2 similar institutions on dynamics of demographics with enrollment, the number of African American males, things of that nature. So I did focus groups on both campuses, and I didn't want to do a quantitative study with surveys and things of that nature. I really wanted to sit down with these young men so I can look in their eyes. I can hear their voices. I can hear the pain, the suffering, the ups, the downs of what they have to go through on their campus. And I will tell you, it was the most rewarding thing to do. And so after recording them for 2 hours, based upon our questions, to go back and transcribe all of that information, man, you can hear different people talk about at a PWI when they walk in a classroom and everybody turn and look at them because they're the only Black male in their classroom. Or when they answer a question, the rest of the people look like, how did he know that answer? Mm-hmm. Because they don't think that they should even be at this institution. Man, it was heartfelt, but so rewarding to hear from our African-American males at some PWIs and what they go through on a day-to-day basis. Mm-hmm. And so oftentimes, you know, you go into these institutions because you want to get a great education, because you want to have this institution on your resume so you can get that job. Why is that? Because sometimes when we walk in a room and I have an HBCU on my resume and a PWI, depending on which one I went to or graduated from, I may not get that job. And so this is a real thing. And some of our young people think about this when they walk into or when they select the institution that they're going to attend, because they want to make sure that they can get a job when they graduate. And sorry to note this, but it's real that because I went to HBCU and I didn't attend a HBCU, I've worked at two, but I didn't graduate from HBCU. But knowing that these young men may not get a job because they went there, wow, mm-hmm. It was real. And so we did the focus group, I transcribed the information, and the students that went to HBCUs have similar problems as the ones who went to the PWIs, because some of my African-American males mentioned at HBCU that the teachers were foreign most of the time. They didn't understand their dialect, so they didn't understand the message in class. So I couldn't do my homework efficiently because I didn't really know what to do for my homework. And then when I went to meet with the professor, he wasn't available for me to meet with because there were no professors that looked like me at an HBCU campus.
Wait a minute, say that again, because the common misconception is that everything and all things are Black on the HBCU campus. So you tell me that ain't true.
In my focus group at HBCU, many of them shared that the professors were from other countries. And a lot of them had difficulties understanding the lesson, getting the message, and being able to communicate with their professors. And so because you go to HBCU doesn't mean that every faculty and staff member there is an African-American male or female. It does not.
All right, so probably example with that whole PWI, predominantly white institution conversation, HBCU goes way back. So let me dig deeper into this, good doctor. What then are you recommending based off your study that parents should do, or more importantly, the advocates, the student need to do to advocate for themselves in these situations when you find the reality is no different, only thing is different is color than when you left your high school?
Well, what I did was, based on my research, I partnered with the administration to share the data with the administration. So for both campuses, the data that we shared with them to say, hey, this is what we're proposing, is that they look into their student affairs areas and ensure that they have resources for all of their students on both campuses. HBCUs, they have a minority group as well. PWIs have minority group. They don't mean that they're Black. It could be Asian Americans. It could be Indian Americans. Now that I am the executive director for Diverse Leadership Colloquium, this whole DNI thing is real. And so a lot of students are minorities in different situations. And so we have to take a very good look at that on all campuses to ensure we're providing the resources needed for every student, for every culture, every ethnicity, because you don't know what issues or problems they have. And so at the PWIs particularly, I said, hey, yeah, we have African-American groups and this thing and that, but we need to ensure that the professors have an office hours for students. We need to ensure that they're a tutorial area for students. We need to ensure that the advisors are there for students. And there needs to be several other leadership programs like male leadership groups on both campuses, PWIs, HBCUs, because Black males need leadership and mentorship on a Black campus, and they definitely need it at a PWI. And so mentorship groups was one of the main things that we talked about, and bringing in people from the community to give back to these young men, to give them opportunities to build relationships, look at internships programs, look at shadowing programs. So we provided several different options and ideas that we felt would help young people get plugged in. Because what about that young man that just go to class and go back to his room? He's not an athlete. He's not in SGA. He hadn't joined a student organization, those type of things. Student organizations are great. Student government are great. But sometimes people shy away from those things because they feel like they're not popular or they don't know me. I don't really have a lot of friends here. Just think about the kid that come from Chicago down to Alabama or Mississippi somewhere. It's a different dynamic. So we got to make sure that we're reaching them, and we have several ways of reaching them and getting them engaged on campus. Because if you can build the living learning community, you will build some relationships with the students where they can partner with administration, staff members, and then get involved on campus. And one thing that we did find that being involved in a student organization helps students navigate and matriculate from year to year.
Well, that's what I'm talking about. That, and that's some great intel. That's some definitely great intel. I'm gonna have to connect you to a friend of mine up here. She does a campus-bound GPS program, and she's always people come on. And this is the information I think needs to be continue to be put out here, right? Especially now if you've gone through stuff, you see it a little differently. But like, who's telling it? Who's a soothsayer to go back and tell people this is the way, right? Look out for these things. Here's some things. Here's some traps. Here's some inherent ones that we're going to walk through. Here's some ones you didn't know was coming type of situation to help them prepare to go fit. I'm glad that you are in this space. I love your passion for it. So what's next for Edwan? Where we headed? Go to school? What are we doing?
Oh man, I told my wife, I said, baby, I think my plate filling up a little bit. So recently, this previous year in January, February, I took over the Diverse Leadership Colloquium, which is a leadership academy that the founder of my company started here in the community. We've graduated 13 cohorts of professionals, and she had a vision to start talking about DE&I before it was a buzzword. So she started Diverse Leadership Colloquium back in 2015. And it is a leadership program for professionals to really understand. We're the premier provider for diversity, equity, and inclusion training. And so it doesn't matter what sector your career path is in, you can learn from our program, graduate with it. We just redesigned the curriculum. It's a 12-week curriculum now, which includes subject matter experts from different areas. I mean, we talk about politics, we talk about religion, government, law, we talk about servant leadership, diversity in education. So there's 10 different sessions, educational sessions that we bring in subject matter experts to share their knowledge and skills from that particular topic and how it affects diversity, equity, and inclusion. And so once you go through the 12-week training course, we have a graduation, which is actually coming up November 10th. And then we want to get the graduates on committees and boards throughout the community. Because in order to make change, you have to be at the table to voice your opinion, to share your knowledge and your skill sets. And so we have over 200 alumni now in Huntsville. We're partnering with different organizations to do community service. We have a social every month to get together to brainstorm. And then we want to also start to impact the community by being more involved. And so during the pandemic, we took some time, those 2 years off, to rebrand, built a new website, redesigned the curriculum. And so our first cohort will graduate in 3 weeks. And so it's going to be phenomenal. As the executive director, I have a great team, the DLC executive team. And we have really put our heads together and really put this, has changed the dynamics of it a little bit. And it's just been phenomenal. So that's a little bit of my day. We've my company, Technology Management Training Group, we right now currently working on one of our major contracts with DOD is taking the Pentagon to the people. And that's where we go to MSIs, HSIs, and also HBCUs. And we bring DOD personnel to your institution to talk about research grants, research dollars. They talk about opportunities for sabbaticals, faculty research, internships for your students, jobs for your students. They want to hire more civilians into DOD because there are several jobs there. I know a lot of times people think that the Department of Defense is all about the military. It's not. There's so many civilian jobs. And so they want to partner with HBCUs, MSIs, and HSIs. And our last one was at UC Riverside, October 6th and 7th. And they are HSI. And so they're a Hispanic serving institution with 25,000 students and doing some phenomenal work, some phenomenal research there. Actually, the Undersecretary, Gilbert Cisneros, was there. So several people from DOD was there. We had a great time. We're getting ready to plan for our next one, which is coming up in February. Right now, we are looking at some white papers. We're thinking about partnering with Tuskegee and Alabama State, hosting it for this upcoming February 2023. And the director for Taking the Pen and Gun to the People, he works for the Defense Management Operations Center. Mr. Clarence Johnson is a graduate of Tuskegee. Phenomenal man. We love Mr. Johnson. We worked with him for several years. And Taking the Pen and Gun to People is my baby. It was my first contract that I worked on. I love it. And it's just a great, great workshop conference. And I wish that more of our students would take advantage of it. And so individuals who are not familiar with Take the Pen and Gun to the People, please check out the website. Please do your research because there's several opportunities for you for jobs and internship programs. And we do a lot of internship programs, and this is one of our biggest ones. And several of the military entities are providing these research dollars for students to do research on behalf of the military. And so that's a lot of the work I do. And then we partner with ONR. So I'm also the FSO, the facility security officer here. So we put the security clearances on students. And I don't think students realize having a security clearance, what that means. You know, I mean, that's great to have on your resume when you apply for jobs and internships. So I'm over that, and we do a lot of that for the Navy as well. And lastly, my AAU program is cranking up. We this year too. We've had we had tryouts, and we have a lot of players that came through this year. So our brand is growing. I actually got to order uniforms and stuff today and get that back in. So we'll have a long season. We'll begin mid-November. We'll finish up in mid-April, early May. So I'm still in the coaching area. I stopped coaching high school basketball, and now I'm coaching my son and other young people in this community. And we're just looking for great families, man, that have a good place to play, to understand the game. And we want to prepare them for middle school and high school and teach them to play the right way. And so I have a passion for basketball. I mean, that's my safe space. When I walk into the gym, I'm just in heaven at that point in time. But that's what we got going on now. Like I said, my son just finished up baseball 2 weeks ago, and we're going right into basketball now. So just staying busy, Mark. And then whenever I can go, I get calls all the time to come and speak to students, to athletes, to young people. I definitely try to do that. And it's not all about money. You know, oftentimes, you know, how much you charge. But a lot of times, God will provide for you when you're doing his work. And so sometimes it's just going to be a blessing for a group of young people.
Right.
It blesses me later on. But there are times where I do get paid to come and speak, which those are blessings. And I appreciate those organizations and colleges for bringing me in. And I just try to touch as many lives as I can, man. And I share this with you too. The reason why I work for the woman I work for now, she said something at the Diversity Leadership Colloquium when I was going through the class. And so one of the speakers didn't show it. So she kind of shared her story with us about how she got started. And she's a phenomenal woman. I just want to brag on her real quickly. Her name is Dr. Dorothy Houston. She graduated from high school at 16, went to Alabama A&M, graduated at 20, went on to the Ohio State University, got a master's PhD, studied at Harvard Business School, studied abroad, came back. She's been vice president of Alabama A&M. She was on the board of Tennessee, the board of regents for Tennessee. And then she was VP for research at A&M for a long time. And so she later left A&M and started this company in 2004, bringing in research dollars, partnered with DOD. And so she said something that night And when she was talking about her company and her journey, she's the youngest of 13 children. And so she said when she built TMT Group, she never mentioned herself. She always talked about her staff and her team. And it was refreshing to hear because my experience, I've never worked for someone who was such a servant leader. Mm. And it wasn't about them. It was all about the people around them. And so when I was listening to Dr. Dorothy Houston, she's very well respected in this community. I didn't meet her initially. It was like kind of my first time meeting her when I went through the Leadership Academy. But she knew of me. She knew of me at A&M. She knew of me. She had heard my name and things of that nature. And so we talked and come to find out we're kind of from the same area. She's from Monroeville area. That's where I played junior college basketball, was in Monroeville. And so we kind of knew some people and we started talking. And she said something at the end of the night. She said, it's not about the life I live, but the lives I build. Mm. She said it in 2015, and I never forgot it. And that day forward, a light went on for me to say, you know what, in order for me to grow as a professional, as a leader, as a speaker, everything that I need to do or want to do in life, I have to surround myself by a leader that I can learn from and grow from. And I started texting her from that day, I want to work for you one day. And she tell this story to everybody. She said, one just created his own job at my company. so I text her. I would text her every month. I'm looking forward to working with you. I'm looking forward to working with you. And we had a conversation about ELA. She said, DeJuan, you really want to work with me? And she's such a humble person. But I call her the Oprah Winfrey of Huntsville, Mark. Like she's that type of influential individual. Nice. So she said, DeJuan, you really want to work with me? I said, yes, ma'am. I don't know what I will be doing, but I want to work for you. And so a year and a half later, she called me. She said, when we get this new contract, which was, I think, take the thing out to the people at the time, we're going to bring you on. And I said, yes, ma'am, I'll be ready. And October 1st of 2017, I started working for Dr. Dorothy Houston, and it's been the best decision of my life. Man, I learned more from her in 1 month than I had learned on other jobs in years, just about being a professional, just about life, leadership, investments, family. And she's family first. She's God, family, then the job. And so my life has just been blessed, man. I'm in heaven. I told everybody, don't even call me about another job. Until TMT Group closes, I'm not leaving. I'm not going anywhere. Because when you have someone that really loves you and your family, man, money is not an object for me right now. I make good money, but I'm not chasing money. I'm chasing passion. I'm chasing my love. I'm chasing peace, if you will. Mm-hmm. And I have a peace of mind. And I work for someone who genuinely loves me, who supports me in everything I do. So that's about it, man.
Well, nope, that's enough. I mean, I don't know if you could do any more things, add more initials, give me some more abbreviations. Like I'm at one of these government meetings up here. So it's like alphabet soup. But that is amazing. I expect nothing less of the bros when it comes to the field of achievement in every human field of endeavor. So I appreciate you and your work, man. You were always impressive when I first met you. I was like, this brother's about somebody's business. So I appreciate you taking the time for that. So, man, we definitely want to have you back on. Definitely connect you with a couple of folks. Now I hear more what you're talking about, maybe some resources for you up this way as well. I know you move around the country, so that's all good, man. We thank you for coming on. And thank everybody for tuning in to Off the Bench. As you know, this is what I love to do. But make sure you subscribe to the magazine. Go to offthebenchmagazine.com and you can subscribe there. Make sure you get that. Once you subscribe, you also get every Wednesday, you get a message from me on Woke Wednesday. It's a 2-minute hot where I just randomly send out some message on somewhere on, and whatever the spirit has led me to say, and I'm going to say it. We do have guest speakers on there as well, but everybody needs some motivation every once in a while. Make sure you do that. And follow us on Instagram at OTB Magazine. We'll be sure to follow you back. So with that being said, as always, I'll leave you with this. If you can reach your dreams with a stepladder, then they're probably too